Coming up, what an excellent day for pressure. Well, howdy folks, and welcome to Minute 51 of the Exorcist Minute, a show where we endeavor to examine, extrapolate, and excavate the Exorcist minute by terrifying minute. My name is Lester Ryan Clark.
And I'm Keenan Diaz.
And we'll be your holy guides on this journey through what some have called the scariest movie of all time. Ooh. Okay, so our minute begins as Regan is still getting that blood pressure cuff on.
And it ends as a needle inches slowly towards her neck.
Oh my God.
It's typical horror movie stuff here at The Exorcist.
Yep. Fun stuff. And this minute seems to stretch and last forever. Oh my God. But yeah, like we said, it starts out relatively tame, right? You got the nurse administering the blood pressure cuff, and she's being super friendly, super calming and reassuring, right? We tried to see which nurse this was because we know that one of the nurses in here is supposed to be Linda Blair's mom. And you would think it would be like in this scene, right? To have your mom, like with you in this scene. But this isn't her, and it's not our favorite nurse from before with the coffee filter. Mm-hmm. So she's not credited at all. Even Mr. What's-His-Name is credited, right? Mm-hmm. But this specific nurse is nowhere to be found, right? What's his name? I mean, Bateson, that guy. But this white nurse with black hair, I can only assume she's a real nurse because we have real radiologists in this scene as well. So and just like that's Friedkin's thing. He likes to put real people in this thing.
Yeah, Friedkin and Blatty had observed procedures like this, right? And they were like, well, that's what we have to do, whatever this real thing is. So then that's part of the reason why they hired real people in this scene.
Yeah, right. All right. So now Bateson lays down what looks like this brown rubber sheet with like holes in it. As he says, it's just for a short time. And Regan lays back down onto that. We're not supposed to know what that is, I don't think. Like normal, regular, like movie goers, normal. What is normal? But like your average movie viewer is not supposed to know what that is, right? I can't imagine anyone in the audience being like, "Oh, it's that thing."
Oh,
right?
yeah.
For the cephalophrenia.
Yeah, pneumoencephalography.
Yeah.
Wait, pneumoencephalography. It's photography, so that part should be normal to us.
Right.
Pneumoencephalography.
Pneumo, like pneumonia.
Right, like the chest. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Anyways,
normal people watching at home also wouldn't necessarily be paying attention to Paul Bateson's hands, right? They wouldn't know he's a serial killer, but he has a lot of the markings of his belonging into the gay leather subculture. He has a big leather band on. Mm-hmm. Again, it does feel like Friedkin and Blatty were just like, oh yeah, this is exactly you to do exactly what you were. So, we're not going to necessarily mess with your costume or anything like that. He's got a lot of rings on his hand, more rings than I would associate with a radiology nurse or radiology technician. Yeah.
You would almost think is that a thing now? Like doctors, like we must have at some point been like no rings, no accessories while operating, no nothing, right? Just to be safe.
I remember as a kid when I would watch Florence Griffith Joyner and her cousin Flojo and oh jeepers, there were two cousins who were big track stars, and one of them I think it was Flojo and not Florence Griffith Joyner. Wait, that is Flojo. Oh god damn it! Hold on, Flojo and her cousin. What's her name? Oh, hold on, I'm gonna find this. I'm sorry.
And I'll practice saying pneumoencephalography.
Oh god damn it! Now I can't find it at all. Now Wikipedia thinks I'm crazy. Florence Griffith Joyner related to Jackie Joyner Kersey. Of course, this is why I'm so confused. Okay, so like Flojo, Florence Griffith Joyner, and her cousin Jackie Joyner Kersey, right? So I get them confused with similar names, right? But I think it was Jackie Joyner Kersey who would do these sprints that looks moving so fast, like moving as fast as a cheetah, and she has all this jewelry on, and even the kid was like, wouldn't you want to take some of this off? Is it sort of distracting? But like, no, it probably helps her. She's like, this is great for me, right? This is my talismans, or this is my lucky charms, or this is who I am, right? I'm being myself on the track. Right, but I was like, but even like a couple of ounces of a chain or something, I'm like, oh yeah, take that off, right? But that's why she's Jackie Joyner Kersey and I am not.
Right, there we go. Right, yeah. I think she knows what she's doing. Right,
exactly.
Okay, so back at this minute, whatever this like weird rubber brown thing is, and however much we know or we don't know about it, like we see that it looks like maybe it's for catching some kind of liquid that might be leaking out of somewhere, and our brain might be going, why is it under her head? Why is it under her neck? What's going on, right? And also just like the color, it's this weird industrial brown, as if it's for something on your car rather than like on a person, right? Like we're changing Regan's oil. Right? Like the color makes it oddly disrespectful in some way, you know?
That's probably not a bad analogy. I mean, anyone who knows medicine more than we do, we do take out some of Regan's fluids in order to be replaced by other fluids in this procedure. Right.
So it's kind of like an oil change. Oh my God. We went there, right? Speaking of which, okay, so like we then have this long bit where they got to like pull down her shirt and then like tuck that blue sheet like over and under her shirt. Again, it looks like a bib and it looks like it's meant to catch something that might be shooting out of a machine you're working on, right? Like and your brain goes, well, nothing shoots out of a person unless, oh fuck. Right. Like then you realize, oh, what's about to happen. Right. And we're further turning this child into something that we're like working on, like a car or something. And I guess like on that note, this is a good place to talk about that line I said I was going to save for optimum hating of Dr. Klein. So there's a point in the book. I can't remember exactly where Chris like opens up to Dr. Klein about how hard all of this is for her. Right. And, having to see her daughter go through all of this. Right. And essentially trusting other people with her daughter's life, right? Essentially leaving her in the hands of like these strangers who are working on her. And Klein, completely missing the point, tries to reassure her and says, I feel the exact same way about my car. Like, what the fuck?
Is a pediatrician.
He's a pediatrician, not just a doctor. He's a pediatrician. Jesus Christ.
All right.
Oh my God.
That's what they teach you at pediatrician school.
Yeah, children are cars. Children are just little cars.
You just change their oil.
You just change your oil. Yeah, that's it. Right. Sometimes they come in with a flat tire, and you know, jeez, cracked windshield, whatever.
Yeah, but this idea of like working on like anticipating that these things are going to start happening to her, right? We're sort of laying this out, right? And nothing is there to be comfortable for her. It's there to catch these terrible things that are going to happen.
Yeah, that's like only like there's only one way that this scene can go when you see, the brown rubber thing being laid down, and when you see like all of these like paper napkin bib things being, fastened to her. It's like, oh, okay, this is going to get messy. Ugh.
Yeah, later on we see very thick brown gloves. And like, ugh. Why are they brown? Again with the brown. Yeah, they're brown so that they don't have to worry about them getting dirty with whatever's on the inside of your daughter that's going to come out here. Yeah.
Oh God, the way you phrase that.
You were saying that.
No. The way we phrase that, it's just like,
It's always more fun when you're the one doing it.
Right.
To hear someone else do it. Oh, I don't like this at all.
And the ironic thing is like we're trying to be gentler by not saying blood, but like it just makes it sound so much more.
I Lester, asked me what we should name some of the episodes, right? Because sometimes he has a really good one, sometimes he doesn't.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, what about fluids? What an excellent name for fluids. And Lester, I don't know about that. There's something about that word that doesn't, you don't like hearing that.
And also we're going to get plenty of chances to name future minutes. What an excellent day for fluids.
That's true.
Yeah. So we might want to keep that one in the chamber.
We could do like an excellent day for fluids part 2, an excellent day for needles part 2. Redux. Yeah.
Does anybody want a part 2 of needles and fluids?
Well, you get them here on the
William Blader
the Exorcist Minute and the Friedkin show. You get double helping of fluids and loud metal clanging.
Yep. Fluids and loud metal clanging. Yeah. Oh God. All right. But yeah, so in this minute, it looks like they're attaching these little white pads to Regan's shoulders. I remember this from E.T. Like they had a lot of these like all over E.T. and all over Elliot, right? And I never like when I was little, I always thought that they were like needles in those too.
Oh, I always did too. I'm glad I'm not the only one who thought that. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like those little white pads are covering up something sinister. Like that's a needle going into that boy's or that girl's or that alien's skin, right?
Right.
And then when he rips them off, I'm like, no, don't do that.
Yeah, I always thought that too. That's really interesting.
Yeah. But I guess they're just sticky things.
I think the white part is just the sticky part to hold in the metal part, which is the part that actually reads things. So
okay, those are going like inside.
No, those are monitors. I think the white part is just to stick it to your skin. They're just the 3M like sticky part,
right? Okay.
And then the metal part that we see is what's actually the important one.
Right. Okay.
And you could, I don't know, maybe in the old days before 3M was everywhere, you know what I mean? 3M like strips and double-sided stuff. Yeah. They probably had to like medical tape things on.
Yeah.
Or put a nail in, like we're thinking. Like we assumed.
Right. Nail it in. Yeah. Welcome to the 19th century medicine.
Yeah, there's a podcast that I would recommend, even though I've never gotten through a full episode, called Sawbones.
Oh God!
Which is about the history of old timey medicine and what they were trying to do and what they thought they would do. So sometimes they just saw stuff off with real saws that they would use in the barn. Yeah, I've never gotten through a full episode, but it's excellent.
Today we're going to talk about trepanning.
Oh yeah. That's where they put holes in the skull, right?
Yeah.
I was maybe it was on Sawbones or someplace else, but I was reading about how they have evidence of what we would think is, prehistoric man, like caveman at times, modern humans, but where we would not recognize them as modern humans.
Right.
Where there's evidence that they had trepanned people and survived. And, and even though it's like barbaric sounding, that might have been saving lives back, 100,000 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, trepanning people to relieve the cranial pressure.
Right. Wasn't that also used? I mean, like, it's like thematically for this movie, wasn't that also, or am I misremembering, like also as a way to like, get the demon out of your head or something?
Oh, like you're probably right. Cause what it is a swelling of the brain, which, I'm sure turns people crazy, right? Like we know that with fever, even like fever turns us crazy, and we start babbling and imagining things. So I'm sure that was related, right? Like, oh, your brain is swelling, and you imagine that you're having conversations, right? You're having hallucinations.
Right.
Your behavior changes. Like our Regan here, if we just had a medical solution for Regan, the lesions in her brain or the swelling in her brain are changing her personality. So yeah,
right.
So they might have accidentally, they might have had a folk or supernatural reason for trepanning people, but accidentally, helping them in, not the best way, but accidentally, and it's this byproduct, like relieving some of the medical pressure on their brain.
Right. Yes. Wow. Interesting.
Oh yeah. We should say we're not doctors, remember? Nope. And don't take our advice, but certainly take this advice. Don't trepan people.
No, definitely don't do that.
Don't do it on your own. Yes.
Don't
do it at all, right? Don't do it at all.
Don't ever do it. Yeah.
Right. Let a doctor do it.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was like. Don't get your parents' permission to trepan your friend. That's not what I'm saying.
Don't try this at home, right?
Don't try
this anywhere.
Anywhere.
God. Yeah, so attaching these little white pads, right? And the nurse says that she's doing fine. Again, some adult reassurance, right? Bateson says like, oh, very sticky, right? So, we're back to making her feel safe,
right.
Making her feel comfortable with the nurse and the guy, Bateson. I actually like how they phrase these next few things in like a non-clinical way, specifically for her, right? Like very sticky, very cold and wet, right? As if observing it for the first time, like we talked about in the last minute, right? Along with her to like reassure her. It's like, hey, this is weird, but like this is what we're doing, Yeah. Like saying this is very sticky, this is very cold, right? But doing it in this way, it's like, yep, it feels weird, and we know that too, and this is what's supposed to happen, so don't be alarmed, right?
I wonder if that's kind of the unwritten contract between Friedkin and these non-actors that he's hired, of like, hey, you all are going to do the right thing, and the movie is going to not judge you. Whereas like Barton Heyman, who's playing Dr. Klein, and then later on we'll have an actor playing Dr. Tanny, right? It's like, well, we need to have these scripted ways, and that you're not helping Chris and you're not a good doctor, but you all, the lady with the coffee filter in her head, it's like, you all are good nurses, or you're good radiologists.
Yeah. Right. So already their bedside manner is their character, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so now we got our other guy, Mr. Mustache and Glasses.
I was going to call him Mr. Brown Gloves. Look at those gloves.
Oh, those brown gloves. Yeah. Yeah, I'm assuming he's the radiologist or just another doctor, maybe. He seems to be the main guy, and Bateson is his assistant.
Yeah, this is the radiologist, right?
Okay.
Again, no credit for him anywhere.
No.
So we're assuming it's the real radiologist that Friedkin had talked about observing and wanting to put in the movie.
Right. So this guy says that Regan's going to feel something a little cold and wet, and again, right, the reassurance, right? You're going to feel something out of the ordinary, but it's totally normal, right? And so they swab this stuff on her, more brown, folks. Mm-hmm. Like if you weren't tired of brown already, like we got some more brown, right?
Now it's looking like the 70s.
Yeah, now it's like we left Dr. Klein's office of orange and brown and blue, and it was feeling a little bit too like medical. We had to throw in some brown.
Yeah, now we're back at the Hamburglar's house with his roommate Grimace in the 80s. Right. Everything's disgustingly brown. This is how poor people live in the 70s. Brown.
God. I want all of my furniture to look like poop, please.
Because it's going to get poop on there anyways, because we're poor. Right. Right. We don't have a maid, so there's going to be poop on our furniture. So let's not hide
that crazy 70s lifestyle even, Right. It's going to be poop somewhere.
At our key parties, we get a lot of poop on everything. This whole place.
Oh, God. No wonder Reagan's throwing up. Like, jeez.
Now, I'm assuming this is iodine. I don't really know the procedures.
It's got to be, right? Like, it has to be iodine, I would imagine, right?
So what is iodine for? Do you know? I guess we should have looked this up beforehand.
Yeah, we should have looked this up before. You just mentioned iodine, and I was like, oh, of course, that's what it is.
So I guess they're using it as a disinfectant, I suppose.
It's got it. Yeah, right.
I don't know if we use iodine as much. I remember it a lot in medical procedures when I was a kid. And I have that smell, in my memory of what iodine smells like when it's applied to you. But now that I think about it, I don't know the last time that's happened to me that I've noticed.
Yeah. It says iodine is a chemical element with the symbol I and the I don't care about that. The heaviest of stable halogens. I don't.
Oh, thank you.
Iodine used for.
Was that on Wikipedia?
It was just Google.
Oh,
iodine is a mineral
I think
found
there's some hack where you can Google science explanations for kids.
Oh,
and you
okay.
can just be so that they're like, okay, let's get to.
Explain to me like I'm 5.
Yeah, we're not here as scientists. We're here as I have a bottle of iodine at home. Should I drink it?
Right.
Like, what is this?
Well, iodine is a mineral found in some foods. The body needs iodine. Don't listen to Google. Jeez. To make thyroid hormones. These hormones control the body's metabolism and many other important functions. Yeah, it sounds like it. Folks, don't drink iodine, please.
At the Wikipedia for iodine, there's a map of the country of France. And it has all these bar charts. Right. Here's a picture I'm showing you. Lester can't see it. You can't see it. Only I can see it. And it has pictures
that's an amazing picture
of regions of France, and some have higher blue bars than other ones. And so I have not read any of the text. I've just drawn to this picture, which is how I read Wikipedia. Just go to the pictures first. Comparison of the iodine content in urine in France for some region departments. For some reason, if you live in Lyon, France, your iodine in your urine is very low, and if you live in Calais, up in the north, it's off the charts high. And I don't know what that's talking about, but just so you know, if anyone's listening to us from Ile-de-France, your iodine level is 86 micrograms a day in your urine, just so you're aware.
Yeah, just be aware of that, folks.
Anyways, they're rubbing her with something gross. Yeah.
Oh, I think I found it. I found it.
Good,
okay.
Good.
So it says, strong iodine is used to treat overactive thyroid iodine deficiency and to protect the thyroid gland from the effects of radiation from radio. Yeah. So maybe that's what this is because they're going to use radiation on her in just a second. And that's whereabouts your thyroid is. Hang on.
Right. That's right.
Thyroid locate. Okay, good. I'm going to go down this rabbit hole.
Again, so again, we're so not doctors that we're Googling medical information out while we're live on the air. So don't take anything that we're saying without consulting about it.
No. Can you imagine us in the operating room? We got our little phones out. It was like iodine. The thigh bone's connected to the.
I saw a tweet once that I don't know if it was just completely made up, but this lady was like, I got into my doctor's office. I saw him on the Wikipedia page for bones, and he closed his laptop really fast when I came in.
See, that would be a thing that I would do as a doctor as a joke.
Right.
I would be it's like how to perform brain surgery, and I would like turn it so that it's like near like the door, so that when somebody comes in, they can clearly read it. And then I'm just like, oh. Yes, nurse. Are we ready for the operation?
We're ready for the operation on the bones.
On the bones,
which are made of calcium,
yes.
Encasing marrow.
There's about a lot of them in the human body. I just look really quickly down at the palm of my hand. There's like 250. Oh.
Anyways, so I don't know. So we'll get back to Regan in a second, but like, I do Google, my symptoms and stuff to see what's going on.
Never do that.
I don't know. I pretend that it's helpful to me to sort of understand and anticipate or whatever. My boyfriend, has the opposite. He's like, don't. You're just going to turn yourself neurotic, right? You're just going to imagine that you have, the worst possible thing, right? Because you're not a doctor. But for me, it is reassuring to sort of like Google everything they're saying. And when I get like a medication or even like an antibiotic or whatever that's temporary, I'll still like look everything I can about that. And, I have no medical training, so I don't know how useful it is. But sometimes I just read an article. I'm like, I don't know what this is saying. But yeah, so you're the opposite, right? You're like, don't Google anything.
Well, no. I do. I still do. I can't help it.
Right. You just know it's not
I
right.
just, but I always come away like feeling even worse than when I did. It's like, oh, I wonder what this, what this dryness in the back of my throat is. And it's like, it means that you're going to die.
Of course it does. Right.
Jeez.
Ray Romano has this bit about getting older. And he's like, oh, there's this pain in my side, or there's this weird lump, on this side of my body or whatever. And he learned that what you should do now is like try to find one on the other side. So he's like, oh, it's okay, honey. There's one on the other side. I'm going to go back to that. Yeah. That was a terrible Ray Romano. I made him sound like a normal person when I showed him.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
There we go. All right, it's symmetrical.
Deborah.
All right, we're going to operate on this girl. Oh, my God, all this fluid.
Oh, she's got so many bones.
All these things shooting out of her.
Oh, geez. Now, we did a bunch of talk on bones, and we don't know how our audience responded to that yet because they're still not released. So
yeah,
they might not like all of our bones.
Oh, yeah. We gotta stop talking about the bones. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay. So, and there's a point here where like the reassurances stop being effective.
Right.
Do you notice that? Right. Like it's right around here, I think, where like up to this point, they've been like calm and reassuring. And we, the audience, are like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And the tone doesn't necessarily change. Actually, that makes it even more disturbing that the tone doesn't change. But the stuff that's happening does. And suddenly we're like, wait, I'm no longer calm. These words are ringing false right now.
Yeah, it might be getting slapped with that iodine, which again, I don't know if that's something that we do less and less or what have you, but I remember that as a kid just being incredibly unpleasant. It's sticky, it's runny, it's runny but still feels syrupy. Yeah, and it has a very strong smell that is very medical and it's very unpleasant. So
yeah, how is it allowed to be both things, runny and sticky?
Right? No.
It's like that's not fair.
Yeah, so I mean that's where that's where it starts for me is like that smacking me in the neck with this iodine. Ugh.
Yeah. Right. So right around here with the shot of this shot, we get a close up on this very large needle. And the requisite Hollywood, squirt to show us that, yes, there is stuff inside it. And these gloves, Keenan, like you were talking about, like, again, with the brown, these things could have been white. They could have been blue, but they're brown.
Like almost they're as if, reusable or something.
Yeah. Oh, like almost as if they're like already covered in the stuff that we're administering on Regan's neck.
That's what it feels like to me. So I don't know what these gloves are for or if they are reusable or what have you. But yeah, it's like they're going to get covered with iodine already. So just make them the color of iodine, right? Just make them that sticky brown color so we don't have to worry about it, right?
Well, in that case, Keenan, like let's make like all of Regan's like blankets that are over her. Let's just make them all red. Because that's what's going to happen.
Oh, God.
Why not? If we're matching colors here,
when I was a kid, I have this Jay Leno flashback. Everyone, I don't like Jay Leno as the host of the Tonight Show, but I watched so much of it as a kid that every once in a while I get these like Jay Leno flashbacks.
Okay.
Well, yeah, you hear about this, yeah. So he's talking with. It's a formative moment in my life now that I'm thinking about it.
Okay.
He's talking to Jamie Lee Curtis, and Jamie Lee Curtis is, so this must have been True Lies, I guess, or 1994, I suppose. All right. Because I guess now that I think about it, all my other Jay Leno memories are about 1994 movies, like The Lion King. So he's talking to Jamie Lee Curtis, and she's talking about how, it's important to her to wake up every morning and make her bed and all of that, and to make her bed and get it all clean. And he says, well, that I never understood, right? I mean, why make your bed? You're just going to get into that night. You're just going to mess it up again. And it was at that moment, the audience applauded with him. And she was like, oh, how terrible. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, Jay Leno's right. Why would you ever make your bed? So I don't make my bed. And it's a sense of, it's a source of some minor disagreements around the house. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. I thought you were on Team Jamie Lee Curtis. Okay.
You would think I would be. Just knowing who Jamie Lee Curtis is and how much I love her and how I don't really respect Jay Leno very much. And I was totally on Team Leno.
Interesting.
But it's like, why? Because I just had this thought here as we're talking about these gloves earlier. Like, why don't we just paint the floor of this operating room red to make it easier? Why don't we just install like a drain? Why do we go through the trouble of cleaning it every day?
No, it really is like a car shop. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, but then I was like, why am I thinking that? I was like, oh, I know why. Yeah, Jay Leno. Yeah,
Jay Leno. Okay.
Now we got dancing Edos coming out. Yeah, they're funny.
Yeah. We might have found what compels us. Oh yeah. I make my bed.
La-dee-da. All right. So I'm Jay Leno in this situation. You're Jamie Lee Curtis, who is a genius and a class act. Why do you make your bed?
You know what? Mm-hmm. It's something that I can do. It's something that I can control. Mm-hmm. It's, like, I don't know how good or how bad or how shitty or how like wonderful the rest of my day is going to be. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how much control I'm going to have over like all the stuff that happens the rest of my day. But one thing that I'm going to make goddamn sure that, it's like I can do, it's like I can make my fucking bed in the morning. But,
Well, I have two things. But why is a made bed better than an unmade bed? Like, why is that the supposition? And this is the beginning of the downfall of Lester Clark. And now he's like, oh God, nothing matters. And then for me,
Lester was fired from his job as a teacher. He was disgraced and kicked out of Hollywood. He's canceled the Exorcist Minute, and you can find him on a curb. And Keenan drives up in a limo. It's like, Lester, what happened? It's like, it all started when I stopped making my bed.
Right. I mean, stop using his turn signals, stop recycling, and just one thing after
it's just
every
a
day.
slippery slope. It's like, I might as well just, not even wear this seatbelt.
No. All of those things have value, but why is a made bed a better bed to be in? I don't think that it is.
I actually don't know.
And then, and then my second part is I think I have the exact same reasoning that you make that bed is why I don't make the bed. I'm like, exactly. I am in control of this. Like society, whoever that is, big made bed, whatever corporate giants want to make the bed, say you should have a made bed, and I am in control of it. And I say, I am not going to make this bed because it's less time I have to spend in the morning and less time I have to spend at night. I just go in the bed, I go under the blanket, and I'm good.
Big brother is watching you not make that bed. And you're sticking it to him. You're like, not today, big brother.
Not today. So anyways, I think it's good that they clean the floor of this radiology exam room every day. Maybe twice a day, maybe more than that. That's wonderful. But
that's a very good thing.
I don't know about the bed. I have not been convinced. So
wow. We're gonna, talking about beds, we're going to see a bed.
Yes.
Very, very soon. But okay. So back to just the weird color choice of like all of this stuff, right? And these brown surgical gloves, right? And it makes me also think like there's something about how like super form fitting they are, right? Like these gloves aren't fucking around,
Right.
right? Like these are like a grade higher than normal surgical gloves, right? Which makes it even more alarming. It's like, what could you possibly need these industrial, like Christopher Lloyd dipping a tune into dip type gloves, you know, for like that's what we need right now.
Right.
Ugh. So now it moves out of frame. The shot, I mean, the needle moves out of frame, and we got Chris and Dr. Klein and someone else sitting down at what looks like some monitors. I'm guessing he's also a radiologist.
Yeah,
like he's looking at it from behind the glass,
yeah, he's
right?
another technician. So he rack focus from the gloves to this square behind them that we haven't quite even been realizing is a window into the other room where people could be.
Right. And, you know, I'm guessing just like our nurse and like half the people here, he's probably like a real technician.
Yeah, I imagine so, right?
Yeah. But yeah, we got Klein looking normal in his, you know, Dr. Klein suit, his white shirt and his red tie and, you know, the like, little white lab coat. But then we got Chris. Keenan, do you see what she's wearing here? My guess is that like it's one of those like radiation suits.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like here, you need to wear this to be in here, which is always disconcerting. Like if I got to wear this, why is my daughter like half naked on the bed? Right. Like that's the classic joke of like the doctor standing behind the industrial like lead, blast shield while he does your x-rays. Like, and you're just standing there like with no pants on. That was a joke like every stand-up comedian was like telling back in the 80s and 90s, right? Because it was like disconcerting that like, you know, and it's a common fear that all of us had, right? Yeah.
Right. And the correct answer is that the you know, you can survive 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 pictures but if they got it every day, dozens of them.
Right. Yeah. So that's the part we don't see is that like they're doing this every day.
And especially, you know, they aren't the ones getting the pictures. So it's worth it you having that minor, like minuscule, not even a risk, right? To get a picture of your shin bone, but like, they're getting blasts of radiation and they're not even getting a picture of their shin bones. Like, it's not even like, hey, let me slide in there while we're here. Let me put my ring finger's been feeling a little strained. I'm going to put that next to yours.
So Chris and Dr. Klein are behind glass looking in. And actually, I was ready to say something about Dr. Klein here. I was predisposed to make some comment about his expression and how Chris looks concerned, but he looks all smug and detached. But it's not that at all. Dr. Klein also looks genuinely concerned here. And it took me aback, right? But then, you know, also, I don't know, the position of his hand belies this sort of like clinical detachment, like he almost like might start drumming his fingers. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what do you think?
But really, he's just sort of, you know, comfortable in this space, and she's never been in this room before, and he's been here a couple dozen times, and, you know, has had talked to people in this room about, you know, the ball game that weekend or whatever.
Right.
The shot's really interesting, right? So it is, we're outside where Mr. Brown Gloves Mustache Man was, right? And he's moved out of the way, and then we see this window back there. And so the window is not straight flush with us. It has that slant to it, right? Because it has some perspective where the right side of the window is slightly closer to us. But it also has this reflection of the of our side of the room in it. So we see like a bank of machinery or cabinets or something. So we see through the glass, and we also see what the glass is reflecting. And they're at complete odds with each other, just shape-wise, right? It's like we can see Chris and Dr. Klein and the other radiology tech, and we can see their expressions, but they're like bisected with a bunch of like just gross, you know, lines and machinery and stuff. So it's really kind of, you know, not a comforting shot. Right. So you know, whether we are feeling this from Regan's perspective or feeling it from Chris's perspective, it's none of it's great, right? Both sides of the window are not having a good time here.
Right. Nobody's having a good time here. No.
Right.
And then, so like we got Chris looking concerned, right? But it's a different type of concern from Klein, right? Ironically, it almost seems a little less intense, perhaps because she's a little like ignorant of the procedure, right? So there's a little bit of like of hope, a little bit of like trust, and maybe even some curiosity mixed into like that look, like, ooh, this looks big and scary, but the doctors must know what they're doing. I wonder what this is. I wonder what that thing is. And then our guy sitting, our technician, like we got to talk about him. His expression is like the punchline to this joke. We got like the 1, 2, 3. We got Klein, we got Chris, and we got this guy, and he's sitting down, right? We got a concerned Klein, right? Perhaps a little clinically invested. We got a meek, trusting Chris. And then we got this guy who knows exactly what's in store for Regan, and his face is like, Good luck, kid.
Yeah, he's seen it all, right? This is like, so Klein comes into these kind of rooms, I don't know what, like once every couple of months, right? He's not the radiologist, and maybe he doesn't always go with the parent to see this, right? He doesn't necessarily have to all the time. So he's seen this enough times, but this is what this radiology tech does all day, right?
Right.
Just constantly. So he might have seen a couple of these this morning, right?
Right, exactly. Right. And again, we got them behind glass with a reflection of, like you were talking about, Keenan, like some tubes.
Yeah, what the hell is that? Yeah.
Hanging from the ceiling. Right. Like it's superimposed over them here. And like I tried to think like, what's the visual thing with these tubes, right? It's interesting we got them over each of the people, right? We got them sort of bundled up and tied up over Klein and Chris, and then it makes this big arc like over the guy, the technician, right? Almost like a wave pattern, like a readout of a monitor. But like I can't think of anything beyond that other than like what you were talking about, like it's just like all a jumbled mess.
Messy.
Right?
Yeah, it's chaotic. And so people who are new to films are like, well, that's just where the camera was, and that's just what this was, right? Well, when you start to shoot films or watch people actually make films, you'll see that, well, there are an infinite number of places to put the camera here to get Chris and Dr. Klein, the technician's face. And so all of them would have slightly different shapes, slightly different line to them. And like, oh, well, that's where the Mr. Gloves, the radiologist, was. Well, no, we could put him wherever. We don't have to actually match that. So
time and space don't really exist when you're making stuff like
exactly. That. So you're using, how do I say that? Maybe I should just say it the heady way that I say it in class, right? So you are taking a 3-dimensional space and you are turning it into a 2-dimensional image to send to the audience, who would then retranslate the 2-dimensional image into a 3-dimensional space in their heads.
Yes.
So I hope that makes sense to people at home who maybe haven't tried to make a movie. But it is
we're manipulating real time and real space to create movie time and movie space.
That then creates the feeling of real time and real space in the audience. So
correct.
It's really, really trippy. David Fincher has this thing that he says that he's like, talking, he has a counterpoint to what I was saying, that there's an infinite amount of places the camera to be. He says, I don't really trust the idea there's an infinite amount of ways to shoot the scene. I think there's really only 2, and one of them is wrong. That like there's the best place to put this. So like I was saying, like we could have put it all over the place and we could have gotten rid of these tubes and we could have had all sorts of different lines, but this is the right place for it, through the eyes of the filmmaker Friedkin and the cinematographer Owen Roseman.
Right. Even if we had the camera in the exact same location, there's no reason for these tubes to be here other than like Friedkin wants them to be here.
Right. He was probably walking around with Owen Reisman, the cinematographer, and being like, oh, if we get it right here, look at the shape that we have. We got this reflection here. Great. They can also, I don't know how prevalent it was back then, but there are also sprays you can put on windows to help minimize, if not entirely remove, reflections.
Oh, yeah.
So, and they use that a lot for like actors' glasses. So I'm an actor who's usually cast, and usually my director wants me to keep my glasses because that's sort of the look that I have, and it's hard for them to imagine me without them. And I don't know what I look like without glasses, right? So that's a concern all the time of like, oh, the reflections in my glasses. And I was working with a director who had just gotten off a movie where he was acting, and then he saw the movie and he kept noticing, he's trying to look at his own eyes in the movie, and he kept seeing reflections of the camera guy, and he could see the camera guy's sandals. He's like, oh, so I was ribbing him a little, like, oh, you see what happened up there? Are you going to do that to me, in our movie? And he was like, absolutely not. I'm going to make sure that will not happen to you. But yeah, so they have sprays and things to help minimize the reflections.
There we go.
So anyways, that's all to say, like, this is wanted by the filmmaker.
Precisely.
This messiness, yeah.
Now, from here, we cut, and there's that needle again.
Maybe we were talking about that window so much, so we didn't have to talk about this needle.
Yeah. I think we've been like distracting ourselves from what we got to talk about here. So if this episode runs a little long, actually, this like string of episodes, I've been finding like we've been falling into a lot of traps, and we've been running long on like a lot of little sidetracks because
we don't want to talk about The Exorcist because it's bothersome. Because it talks about the deep, dark nature of what it is to be a human.
Well, I'm talking about like this medical stuff, right here.
Yeah, exactly. Again, this is one of the not even the like the spiritual stuff, the existential stuff. Like one of the deep, dark things that this movie taps into is that we are a bag of goo that is somehow conscious, and that if something is off by a little bit in an organ we've never heard of, it makes our parents sad, like it everything goes wrong. right?
Yeah.
In a pituitary gland. What the hell is that, right?
Right.
In your ilium. Who the fuck cares what that is? But
so I never even met my ilium. I've never had a drink with him. And now suddenly he's fucking me up.
Right.
Like, this is not fair.
Yeah, I think
at least introduce yourself, my guy.
Yeah, your Tinder profile is quite misleading, Mr. Ilium.
Sheesh.
But yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that because we've talked when we started this season of this podcast, right, about The Exorcist, about how we've already sort of talked about this several times about how this sequence is the one that got people bothered the most, and they were running out of the theater, and they were fainting, and there were ambulances called to movie theaters, right? And I've been thinking a lot about that, you know, people talking about that recently have sort of said, like, it's interesting that that's not the supernatural existential stuff, right?
Right.
Which is true. It is interesting. But I think that when we're really looking at this, I've been thinking about that more, about it's all of the same piece, like this fragile nature of being.
Precisely. Yeah. This movie talks about, gives uncomfortable focus on what's inside you spiritually and existentially. And then also just like what's inside you, like guts and blood and stuff like that. Yeah. And to what you were saying, Keenan, and I want to explore this like a little bit further, like when our demon makes Regan like do all of these like really gross things and everything like that. There's something to be said about like this demon's type of attacks that they all have to do with like the animal nature of human beings and just how gross human beings can be, right? Like we forget about that, like that this demon could, crawl on the ceiling and spit fire and do all of these other demonic things, but he's focusing on the human body and the human condition and the human like animal in this way that I think is very, very important. And we're gonna talk about that a little bit later.
Great.
But yeah, so yeah, we got that needle, and now we follow it as it lowers into Regan's neck. And again, I was ready for the goddamn thing to go into Linda Blair's neck, but on closer inspection, maybe this is what's going to get me through this. We see the tip of the needle sort of disappears behind her neck, and it stops.
Trickery.
And Linda Blair makes a face as if it's really going into her. Okay, so Keenan, I'm admitting that I'm really, really ignorant here, but maybe this will also like help some other listeners and some other moviegoers. All of this is fake, correct?
It's all fake, right? The needles are all fake as we start to look at it again.
Okay.
It's all through the editing. It's all through performance. And I think sound helps a lot here, where we're tricking us into thinking it, right? So we were talking about space. And so, yeah, it's similar to the last time we saw a needle. And the needle is going behind her neck, but it sure looks like it's going in her neck.
It sure does.
And it's perfectly matched. So I don't know the specifics of how they would do this, but you might, in this shot, right, you're watching from a viewpoint relatively close to the camera, and so the assistant director or Friedkin himself would be able to cue Linda Blair, right? Because we could say things we're not going to include in the final cut, and say Linda or action Linda or something like that, or needle, or give some kind of cue so that Linda Blair knows when she's supposed to start reacting to it.
Right.
And it's just seamless.
Yeah. And like, what does that say about like this movie where like we're watching the later stuff, right? And it's all very good and very realistic, right? Like when she's like full on demon mode, but we look at that and we're like, wow, like what amazing special effects, and like it looks so real. And then we're watching this stuff and we're like, wow, it looks so real. It's like I can't eat popcorn and watch this. Like,
and again, discounting her acting because it feels so grounded and real. So we're not really noticing the acting. We're just like, they're just really sticking needles in this girl. That must be what's going on, right?
Yeah, like I've heard The Exorcist like has like a history. This must be part of it, that they actually did this procedure. But no.
Speaking of like the knife going in like Psycho, the shower scene with Jamie Lee Curtis's mother, Janet Leigh, right?
Right.
I show that every year in my class, my intro class to the film students. And, it really, really looks like the knife is going in. And again, in 1960, when that was coming out, you didn't have the ability to go and see the movie on VHS and pause it or any of that stuff. So the only way you would get to reconfirm about whether you actually saw the knife go in, because the edits are making it, you're completing the edits in your you're completing the movements in your head across the edits that you swear you see it in, right? So the only way to confirm that is to go back and look at it again. And those shots are so incredibly fast, right? It's cut incredibly rhythmically, like it takes over. So like people would go in to try to see if they really saw the knife going in, if they really saw nudity. There's no actual, she's in the shower, but you don't actually see a nipple or a butt crack or anything like that, but you swear that you do. So people would go in again, and then they probably are just like swept up into it again. Like, oh God, I forgot to look.
I missed it again.
Because even watching these sequences a couple of times, getting ready for these minutes, right? Even knowing what the tricks are, you still wince. You still go, oh.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like speaking of what you were talking about before, some great acting by Linda Blair here, right? It's one of the more subtle and I think the more realistic reactions of trying to hold back your expression of pain or fear, right? Some actors, like they pride themselves on being able to like cry on cue and stuff like that, right? But in real life, people in real life, they go to great lengths to hold back tears or hold back how scared they are or how angry they are, right? Unless it's part of like a display that they're trying to communicate, right? And actually in that way, you can sometimes catch people who are being maybe less genuine, right? Like if they're trying to manipulate a situation, they might show tears a little bit too early or without any effort, right? To hold them back, which is like, the natural human thing to do. You instinctively don't want to show vulnerability, right? Unless you do, unless you want to be like, look how vulnerable I am right now. You can trust me.
Right.
But yeah,
as you were talking, I let my video play and watched her do the entire thing where she's wincing through that, and it triggered something. I had to like take my glasses off and wipe my eyes. It's really, really upsetting to watch this little girl go through that, and she's going through the whole thing. Yeah. So as you're describing it, like she's like steeling herself, right? She's like trying not to show how much it hurts.
Right. Because mom is there and the doctors are there. And, she doesn't like, she's thinking of other people, like even as this is going on. Right. So yeah, I like this like instinct from Linda to act like it hurts, but also act like she's trying to be brave because everyone's watching, her mom is watching. So she wants to put on this brave face.
Yeah. We're so close on her that like this reaction is like dependent on like, I mean, it looks like we're feeling her neck muscles contracting out of sympathy for the wound, right? Like she's really figured this out, like what this is. It's not just in the top of her head, it's a whole body response.
Yeah. I don't know about you guys, but like when I'm watching this, I feel those needles. Like I'm like, ooh,
yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And so we get a close up on the radiologist's face again. Again, like no credit. It's so weird that he doesn't get a credit, but Bateson does for some reason, even though like I would think this guy has just as many lines, if not more than Bateson.
Yeah. One of the things I've had trouble finding in like, because we have had some good resources about a comparison and contrasting between the 73 version and the version you've never seen. One of the things I'm having trouble finding is like credit. Like what was like did Bateson? I don't believe Bateson had a credit in the 73 version. Like, but on IMDb and in the Amazon one, they credit Bateson, and I guess it might be just because of his like notoriety.
Like, this person, yeah. That's what I was. That was like that. That's the only reason I can think of, right? Like that he went on to do some other stuff that he was notorious for. Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. Like we were like, oh, we don't want to talk about this guy, but it is such a big deal, right? We don't want to. So I don't necessarily want to like complain about the companies, either Amazon or IMDb is owned by Amazon now, so I guess it's Amazon. As a company. But like I don't necessarily want to criticize them for like noting that this person exists, because that's interesting historical fact, but just kind of icky.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird, but yeah. So, like back to this guy, this radiologist, right? Like we don't know his name, but he's looking very 70s in his glasses and his sideburns and his little mustache, and he's got this intense look of concentration.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that after Linda Blair's, really visceral response, that he can be calm. It's really unsettling. Again, like
it's a nice juxtaposition.
Yeah, what do you want? You don't want him to be like, this is, you don't want him to be so heightened. Like this is the third or fourth one of these he's done today, right? You don't want him to be like, oh, yes, this has to go. But like, but it's still weird to look at when you're on the outside, right?
Right. You don't want him looking like he's making a sandwich or something like that.
But you also don't want him to be like, oh, okay, all right, this is a big deal for me, right? This is right. It's not. We don't want it to be a big deal for him, right?
Right. I got a good feeling about this one. Yeah. So, okay. So after this, our mustachioed doctor says, good. And then we cut to a table of surgical instruments. We see that the doc has just set down the needle, and his hand moves along the table. The camera follows, and our doc somehow manages to find the worst thing on that table. Spoilers, it's another needle. But it's resting on this little blue napkin amidst two other needles that are like separate from the rest of the implements. And to me, it's just like, oh God, what are those for? Like that they got to separate them from everything else.
Yeah, they don't just bring out all the stuff and I'm going to pick what I'm going to like. These are here because he's going to use them. Right. So all of these have their own little nefarious purposes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And we cut back to his face after he has chosen this particular instrument of torture. And that's all that shot was for, just to show you all the things we could be sticking in her neck, and what we ultimately decided upon. And now we're back to this guy's face. And he says something that I guess is supposed to be innocuous, but like in spite of that, or maybe because of it, it sounds even worse. Keenan, what do you think? He says, you're going to feel some pressure.
Yeah.
And when he's going to stick her in the neck with the needle, I don't know. Pressure sounds worse than you're going to feel a little sting or a little prick or, whatever. I don't know why pressure sounds worse, but it does.
Well, geez, what is that pressure? I mean, why would you only feel pressure and not any kind of pain stimulus? It's because it's from a part of your body that doesn't have pain normally. You don't think about it's something in there that hasn't evolved the need to feel. Right. And now you're going to feel something there. It's attempt to be heard. It crying out from the darkness saying, Lester, help me. I'm your insides.
Oh, God. Is that you, pituitary?
Hey, guys.
Or is he referring to the pressure of his fingers on her neck? Because that's the next thing we see. He's pressing down on her neck, I guess, to like prep the skin for the needle, right? So yeah, whatever he means by pressure, he follows that up with this very ominous, don't move. And now we see the needle inching closer and closer to Regan's neck. Not just any place on her neck, what looks to be the exact puncture wound from before. That's the worst part about all of this, is the idea of sticking you in the same place that they already stuck you. Oh my God.
Now, okay, so of course we're focusing on, and when we're watching it as an audience, the needle coming to her puncture wound, and we're seeing this gross iodine she has there. But now that we've been thinking about those gloves, I don't know if you can pull this shot of Lester, but
okay.
These gloves are so tight you could see the radiologist's fingernail bends.
Yes. And it looks like he has dirty fingernails.
Which of course he doesn't. He's just brown, right?
Right.
But these are such tight freaking gloves that we could see underneath them. Gross.
Oh my God.
Gross. I don't like it.
No, not one bit.
My friend just came back. He was back home, my director friend, and he was driving along with his family, and he was in the back seat, and he had a collapsed lung all of a sudden.
Oh my God.
And his lung collapsed, and it feels, of course, like he doesn't know what it is. He's like, I'm having a heart attack. He's only 30, I guess, 29, 30. Yeah. And so then they go, and it turned out it's a collapsed lung, which is something I just can't imagine. So that's like been his whole life for the past, month, dealing with that and like the repercussions of that. And he's, we're all very interested. And like sometimes we're like, I don't know, do you want to talk about this? Because I'm sorry if I'm asking questions. Like, no, I want to talk about this. This is the whole thing I've been dealing with. And he says, so he goes to the urgent care because they don't know what's going on. And they go to the urgent care and they test him for his heart first because he says, I think I'm having a heart attack. That's what
right.
Like. And then they realize it's not the heart, it's the lungs. And it is your right lung has collapsed. So you need to go to a real hospital, go to the emergency room. So then they go there and they have to do it all over again, right? So they have to check his lungs and they get an x-ray there. And they say, okay, we're clear right now. If this had been a couple months ago during the height of COVID and flu season, like you might have had to wait during all this. But okay, we're going to get you in. We're going to get this procedure on your left lung. And he's all on this. He's all on these drugs or everything. But he has the wherewithal. Exactly. He has the wherewithal to go, wait. At the other place, they told me it's my right lung. So before you start cutting in here, don't open up my left lung. And I was like, they get in there. They're going to figure it out, real quick. But no, he's like, let's double check. So then they're like, oh, God. All right. So they went and double checked. And then they came back and they're like, it's the left lung. At the other place, they had it wrong. And he's like, well, how do you know that? And so at the other place, the radiologist assistant had flipped the negative.
Okay.
So it's just like a clerical, kind of error that I'm sure happens every day,
That is don't tell me that.
That has never happened before. It's never happened that an X-ray has been flipped upside down and then sent in the file that way.
God.
The first time in human history and the only time that's ever happened.
Mr. Wilson, it appears that your skeleton is upside down in your body. This is a major problem. Your head's down where your feet should be, and your feet's up where your head should be. Oh my God. We got to operate right away.
Mr. Wilson, I don't know how to break this to you, but somehow the skeleton of the lady who was in the X-ray machine before you has gone into your body. We can't figure out how that would be. We better crack you open and get it out of there.
We got to call this lady and get her back. Yeah.
Right.
She's somewhere. She's just a bag of skin rolling around somewhere. How'd you get home?
Right.
God. That is, Keenan, I don't know what answer I would prefer. Like,
right.
If it's like, hang on. No, they said it's the right lung. And so they go back and check and it was like, oh my God, you're so right. It is the right lung. We made a mistake. Your life is in our hands and we made a mistake. I don't know if I like that answer, or they're like, no, it's the left lung. It's like, well, I don't know what to believe now. Like, one of you fucked up.
Well, they figured it out. They got the right.
Yeah.
They figured it out. I think it's interesting that he was in so much distress, right, that you can't tell which lung is collapsed, which is really scary sounding, right?
Yes,
totally believe him that he's just like, something is going on in my chest. And like we were talking about that, okay, you're going to feel some pressure in places you've never felt anything before, right?
Right.
Like how, you don't have nerves that explain to you what's going on with your lungs, because normally nothing ever happens in your lungs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm a little deflated today.
Oh, you feel a little deflated, do you?
Oh, just a little down. Seasonal affective. I should just go outside in the sun.
Sure.
No, lungs, stay inside. Stay in there.
Take this pack of cigarettes with you. Oh, God. So, yeah, Keenan, that's all I got. Is there anything we missed?
Not unless you want to hear more medical mistakes that I have.
Oh,
if I need any more anecdotes, I can look up.
Do I want to hear more?
I don't think you do. So
no. Okay. All right. We're sparing you folks. If you want, if you're curious about, just like not being able to sleep at night, hearing Keenan tell all these stories, write us in to theexorcistminute@gmail.com, and we'll have Keenan tell some more of these wonderful bedtime stories to you in upcoming minutes. But yeah, for now, folks, this has been another excellent Exorcist Minute. I've been Lester Ryan Clark. You can catch me on all the socials as Lester Ryan Clark.
And I've been Keenan Diaz, and you can find me on Instagram and Letterboxd as Howdy Keenan.
Yes, and we have a Facebook page for the show, The Exorcist Minute, so like and follow that for updates. And we have a listener group called Compelling Conversations, right? Come join us and you'll be in here with us, right? You can post memes and interact with us and other listeners, right? That'll be really, really cool. We have a really nice community in there. Lastly, if you like our show, the best thing you can do for a podcast that's just starting out is to leave a little 5-star review, and that'll help us reach more people, and we can keep growing this cool community. All right, Keenan, I think that's it. Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I think I am, Lester.
Folks, until next time, the power of Jay Leno compels you.
Yeah. Have you heard this? Have you ever seen this?
So I went in for this, this cardiocephala thing, and they told me my skeleton was upside down.
Yeah. Brad and I said my skeleton was upside down. Yeah.